when my father's voice cracked through the phone saying, "We all agreed you're not welcome at Christmas." I felt my world shatter. After 28 years of being the family's financial backbone, supporting everyone from my unemployed brother to my aging parents, this was my reward. What they didn't know was that every single one of their bills ran through my accounts. Their mortgage insurance, streaming services, even my sister's car payment, all under my name. As I stared at my laptop screen, I realized I held the power to show them exactly what family loyalty meant. But before we dive into how I dismantled their comfortable lives piece by piece, I need to know, where are you watching from? If you're ready for a story about family betrayal that'll make your jaw drop, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this revenge story gets absolutely wild. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when they realized who was really keeping their lives afloat. My name is Serafina, and I've always been the responsible one. While my siblings partied through college on my dime and my parents lived beyond their means, I built a successful marketing consultancy from scratch. What started as helping family with temporary financial assistance had somehow morphed into me being their personal ATM for over a decade. The Christmas phone call came on December 15th. I was reviewing quarterly reports when Dad's number flashed on my screen. His voice was cold formal, nothing like the warm tone he used when asking for money. "Sarah, we need to talk about Christmas." "Sure, Dad. What time should I bring the desserts I already ordered that Cheesecake Mom loves from?" "You won't be bringing anything. We've discussed it as a family, and we've all agreed you're not welcome at Christmas this year." The words hit like a physical blow. What are you talking about? What did I do? Your attitude lately has been toxic. The way you questioned Marcus about his job search, how you criticized Elena's spending habits. We're tired of walking on eggshells around you. Marcus, my 32-year-old brother who'd been between jobs for 18 months. Elena, my 26-year-old sister whose shopping addiction had racked up $20,000 in credit card debt I'd been paying the minimums on. Dad, I've never been anything but supportive. We've made our decision. Maybe some time apart will help you reflect on your behavior. The line went dead. I sat in my home office surrounded by the success I'd built from nothing, feeling more alone than I ever had. But as the initial shock wore off, a different emotion took hold: curiosity. I opened my banking app and started scrolling through the automatic payments. The scope of their dependency was staggering. Mom and Dad's mortgage, $800 monthly in my name because their credit was shot from a bankruptcy 8 years ago. Their car insurance, health insurance, supplement, streaming services. Dad's life insurance premium. Even their internet bill. Marcus lived in an apartment I'd co-signed for with rent automatically deducted from my account. His car payment, insurance, phone bill, even his gym membership. The man hadn't contributed a dime to his own existence in over a year. Elena was worse. Beyond her credit card payments, I covered her car payment, insurance, phone, and her apartment's utilities. She'd somehow convinced me to add her to my Costco membership, Amazon Prime, and even my grocery delivery service. She was literally eating food I paid for while telling me I wasn't welcome at family dinner. Then there was my stepmother, Patricia, who'd married Dad 5 years ago. She'd seamlessly inserted herself into the financial arrangements. Her phone, her car payment, her medical bills, even her salon appointments were charged to cards in my name. She'd somehow positioned herself as the family mediator, the one who understood everyone's perspective. The more I dug, the angrier I became. Not just at the money. I could afford it. But at the audacity. They'd built their comfortable lives on my generosity, then had the nerve to exclude me when I dared to suggest accountability. I grabbed my laptop and started calculating, including interest late fees I'd covered and direct support I'd given this family over $400,000 in the past decade. $400,000 to people who just informed me I was too toxic for Christmas. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. Don't take Dad's call personally. We just need a drama-free holiday for once. Maybe next year. Drama-free. As if wanting my unemployed brother to actually look for work was drama. As if asking my sister to budget her spending was unreasonable. Another text, this one from Marcus. Hey, can you cover my electric bill this month? It's higher because of the heater. Thanks, sis. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. In the same breath as excluding me from Christmas, he was asking for more money. I screenshot both messages and saved them to a folder I titled Evidence. Then I started researching. I pulled credit reports, reviewed contracts, and documented every financial entanglement. What I discovered was worse than I'd imagined. They hadn't just taken advantage of my generosity. They'd actively deceived me. Patricia had been telling people she supported the family financially. At Dad's retirement party last year, I'd overheard her bragging to her friends about how she'd saved the family from financial ruin and how some children just never learn responsibility. Marcus had been using my address and financial backing to qualify for government assistance programs while living off my support. He was double-dipping, collecting benefits while having his expenses covered. Elena had opened store credit cards using my address and employment information, then forgotten to mention the bills that started arriving at my house. But the worst discovery was in Dad's email. I still had access from when I'd helped him set up his account. There were conversations with Patricia about how to manage Serafina's contributions and discussions about my control issues. They'd been strategizing about my money behind my back. One email from Patricia to Dad made my blood boil. We need to be careful about how much we let her think she's helping. If she realizes how dependent we've become, she might cut us off. Maybe we should make her feel more needed in other ways, while keeping the financial arrangements as they are. Another from just last week. The Christmas thing might be perfect timing. She's been asking too many questions about Marcus's job search and Elena's spending. If we exclude her this once, she'll probably overcompensate with extra financial support to win back our approval. They'd planned this. The exclusion wasn't about my behavior. It was a manipulation tactic designed to make me more generous, more desperate for their acceptance. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. If they wanted to play games with family loyalty, I was about to show them what real consequences looked like. The first step was documentation. I printed every contract, every payment history, every text message asking for money. I organized them chronologically, creating a timeline of exactly how they'd built their lives on my financial foundation. Next, I researched the legal implications. Most of the accounts were in my name only, meaning I had every right to cancel them. The co-signed leases and loans were trickier, but even those had clauses I could invoke. By the time I finished my research, it was past midnight. I'd spent 7 hours documenting a decade of financial manipulation and emotional blackmail. As I prepared for bed, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would start dismantling the comfortable world they'd built on my back. They wanted to exclude me from the family fine. They could learn what exclusion really meant. I woke up December 16th with crystal clear purpose. While they slept in beds I'd helped finance, I was already dressed and reviewing my action plan. The beauty of modern banking meant I could reshape their entire world before they finished their morning coffee. My first call was to Patricia's cell phone provider. As the account holder, I had every right to cancel her line. "I'd like to cancel the additional line on my account, please." "Of course, ma'am. May I ask the reason for cancellation?" "The user is no longer part of my household." Within 10 minutes, Patricia's phone was disconnected. One down. Next came the insurance companies. I called Dad's auto insurance first. "I need to remove myself as the policyholder and cancel the policy." "Sir, are you sure the policy will terminate immediately and your father will need to find new coverage before driving?" "I'm certain. Please send confirmation in writing." The car insurance for all three of them, gone. Their health insurance supplements, gone. The life insurance policy Dad had been bragging about at his retirement party, gone. By 10 a.m., I was calling Marcus's apartment complex. "This is Serafina Walsh. I'm a co-signer on apartment unit 214 for Marcus Walsh. I need to invoke the 30-day removal clause in the lease agreement." "Ms. Walsh, that clause requires the primary tenant to find alternative housing or financial backing within 30 days. "I understand completely. Please begin the process today." Marcus's safe little world was about to crumble. No insurance, no co-signer, and a ticking clock on his housing. The streaming services were easier. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, Spotify Premium. I methodically canceled every subscription they'd grown accustomed to. Their entertainment was about to become very limited. Then I tackled Elena's financial web. Her car payment was in my name, but for her benefit. One call transferred the loan entirely to her credit. Credit that couldn't handle the payment. Her phone plan gone. Her utilities arrangement, where I paid the deposits and co-signed, terminated. The credit cards where I'd been making minimum payments on her debt were trickier. I couldn't cancel her debt, but I could remove myself as an authorized payer and let the companies know I was no longer responsible for the accounts. By noon, I'd systematically removed myself from dozens of financial obligations. My phone had started ringing constantly, but I let every call go to voicemail. The first message was from Patricia. "Sarah, honey, my phone isn't working. There must be some mistake with the bill. Can you call the company?" The second from Dad. "Serafina, we need to talk. There are some issues with the insurance. Call me back immediately." But it was Marcus's message that made me smile. "What the hell, Sarah?" "My insurance company called saying my policy was canceled. This better be a mistake because I have a date tonight and need my car." A date. The man living off my money was going on dates while being too depressed about unemployment to job hunt. Elena's voicemail was pure panic. "Sarah, something's wrong with everything. My car payment company called my phone is acting weird and my internet is down. Mom said you and Dad had some fight, but this is crazy. Fix this now." I saved every voicemail as evidence of their entitlement. Around 2 p.m., Patricia showed up at my house. I watched through my security camera as she pounded on my door, her face red with fury. When I didn't answer, she called Dad from my doorstep using a neighbor's phone. "She's not answering." "This is deliberate, Robert. Your daughter is having some kind of breakdown and she's taking it out on all of us." That evening, Dad finally showed up. I let him in because I wanted to see his face when reality hit. "Serafina, what have you done? Patricia's been without phone service all day. Marcus can't drive his car. Elena's apartment is threatening eviction over some utility issue." I gestured for him to sit down. "Would you like some coffee? It's the expensive kind I buy with my own money from my own kitchen in my own house." "This isn't the time for sarcasm. You need to fix whatever you've broken." Broken dad, I haven't broken anything. I've simply removed myself from financial arrangements with people who don't want me in their lives. His face went pale. That's not... The Christmas thing isn't about money.
Isn't
Isn't it because, based on the emails I found in your account, you know the one I still pay for? Patricia seems to think it's very much about money. Something about making me overcompensate with extra financial support to win back approval. The color drained completely from his face. You read my emails. The emails on the account I pay for that I set up with my recovery information. Did you really think I wouldn't discover your little manipulation scheme? I pulled out my folder of printed evidence. Let's review, shall we? 10 years of supporting this family. $400,000 in direct support, not counting the credit I've extended and the opportunities I've given up to help you all. I slid Patricia's email across the table. Here's your wife explaining how to manipulate me into giving more money while making me feel less valued. Here's Marcus's unemployment fraud, collecting benefits while I cover all his expenses. Here's Elena's credit card applications using my address and employment information. Dad picked up the papers with shaking hands. Sarah, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've all been living comfortable lives on my dime while treating me like an ATM with an attitude problem. Well, the ATM is permanently out of service. You can't just cut everyone off. Patricia needs her phone for work. Marcus needs his insurance. Elena needs to learn the value of money. Marcus needs to get a job, and Patricia needs to support herself like the independent woman she claims to be. I stood up. You said the family agreed I wasn't welcome at Christmas. Fine. But the family also isn't welcome to my bank account. This is vindictive and cruel. No, Dad. Vindictive and cruel is manipulating someone's love for their family to fund your lifestyle, then excluding them when they ask for basic accountability. Vindictive and cruel is letting your wife badmouth me while I pay her bills. I walked to the door and opened it. You have a choice now. You can acknowledge what you've all done, make genuine changes, and maybe we can rebuild our relationship on honest ground. Or you can continue playing victim while figuring out how to pay your own bills. And if we can't manage without your help, I smiled coldly, then I guess you'll learn what I learned today. Family loyalty should never be conditional on financial convenience. After he left, I poured another glass of wine and reviewed my handiwork. Phase 1 was complete. By tomorrow morning, they'd fully understand the scope of their dependency. But this was just the beginning. I had much bigger plans for teaching them about consequences and family values. The next morning brought a flood of panicked messages, but also something unexpected. Support from places I hadn't anticipated. My phone rang at 7 a.m., and for once it wasn't a family member demanding I fix their problems. Sarah, this is Janet Marcus's landlord. I wanted to give you a heads up before this gets messy. Janet Morrison had been dealing with my brother's irresponsibility for 2 years. As his co-signer, I'd developed a relationship with her that was built on mutual frustration. What's happening, Janet? He's been telling people you had some kind of mental breakdown, and that's why you're acting crazy about money. But honey, I've been watching this boy live off your generosity while treating you like garbage. When you called yesterday about removing yourself from his lease, I wanted to cheer. This was interesting. What exactly has he been saying? Oh, you know Marcus. Everyone's always against him. Nothing's ever his fault. But I see the credit card statements he throws away. I see the food delivery bags every night while he claims he can't afford groceries. The boy's been living like a king on your dime. Janet continued, I've got 3 other tenants in similar situations. Kids whose parents enable them instead of helping them grow up. Would you be interested in meeting some other people who've had enough of being taken advantage of? By noon, I found myself in a coffee shop with an unexpected group of allies. Janet had brought two other property managers who dealt with financially irresponsible tenants. Sarah Kim managed the complex where Elena lived, and David Rodriguez handled several properties in the area. Your sister, Sarah said, shaking her head, has been bragging for months about how she has a family trust fund that pays her bills. She throws parties, orders expensive takeout, and acts like she's independently wealthy. David nodded grimly. I've seen this pattern before. Adult children who've never learned financial responsibility because someone always bails them out. But what makes your situation unique is the systematic manipulation. Most families just enable accidentally. Yours planned it. What do you mean? Sarah pulled out her phone. Elena mentioned a few months ago that the family was working on getting you to contribute more to a family investment property. She said her stepmother was handling the negotiations and that you were finally coming around to supporting family goals properly. My blood ran cold. What family investment property? Some vacation rental scheme. Elena was excited because she thought she'd be managing it and getting paid from the rental income. But she let slip that you'd be funding the down payment and covering the mortgage if it didn't immediately turn profitable. I felt like I'd been punched. They hadn't just been taking my money for living expenses. They'd been planning to trap me in a long-term investment scheme disguised as family bonding. Janet leaned forward. There's more, honey. Your brother has been telling people he's starting a consulting business and just needs family startup capital to get it off the ground. Marcus hasn't worked in 18 months. What consulting business? Exactly what I wondered, so I did a little digging. She slid a piece of paper across the table. He's been researching how to flip houses using other people's money and no personal investment. Apparently, the plan was to convince you to fund his real estate ventures. David added, your stepmother has been cultivating relationships with local business owners, telling them she's married into a successful family, and that investment opportunities might be available soon. She's been positioning herself as someone with access to significant capital. The scope of their planning was breathtaking. This wasn't just casual financial dependence. It was a coordinated scheme to turn me into their permanent funding source for increasingly ambitious projects. Here's what I think you should know, Sarah said carefully. There are legal implications to what they've been doing. Using your address for credit applications, claiming family trust funds that don't exist, potentially planning to involve you in business ventures without full disclosure. Some of this crosses into fraud territory. I spent the next hour learning about my new allies' situations. Janet's sister had drained her retirement fund to support her adult son's gambling addiction disguised as investment opportunities. Sarah's brother had convinced their parents to mortgage their house to fund his startup, which turned out to be cryptocurrency speculation. David's ex-wife had systematically transferred their joint assets to her family members before filing for divorce. The thing is, Janet explained, people like your family count on shame and guilt to keep their victims quiet. They make you feel like you're being petty or vindictive for setting boundaries. But financial abuse is real abuse, even when it comes from family. Sarah nodded. What you did yesterday was just the beginning. They're going to escalate their manipulation tactics. They'll try love-bombing guilt trips, maybe even threats. You need to be prepared. That afternoon, my suspicions proved correct. Dad called with a dramatically different tone. Sarah, sweetie, I think we've all misunderstood each other. Maybe Christmas was We were too hasty. Patricia feels terrible about how everything was handled. Interesting. What changed your mind? Well, we realized how much you contribute to the family and we don't want you to feel unappreciated. I almost laughed at the transparent manipulation. And this realization happened when exactly? Does it matter? The important thing is we want you to be part of Christmas again. In fact, Patricia suggested maybe we could discuss that investment property idea over dinner. She thinks it could be a great way for the family to build wealth together. There it was. Sarah had been right. They were ready to escalate to bigger financial schemes. Dad, I need some time to think about everything. The past 24 hours have been revealing. Of course, honey. Take all the time you need. But remember, family forgives family. After hanging up, I called my new allies with an update. Janet's reaction was immediate. They're panicking. Good. That means they're finally understanding consequences. David had a different perspective. Be careful, Sarah. When manipulation stops working, some people turn to more aggressive tactics. Document everything and consider involving professionals. That evening, I received an unexpected call from my cousin Rachel Dad's niece who lived across the country. Sarah, I just got the strangest call from Patricia. She was asking if I knew any lawyers who handle family financial disputes, and whether I thought someone could be forced to honor verbal agreements to support family members. She called you about lawyers? She seemed to be fishing for information about whether you could legally cut off support. But here's the weird part. She also asked about your business finances and whether I knew how your consulting company was structured. A chill ran down my spine. What exactly did she want to know about my business? Whether you had business partners who might be affected if you made poor personal financial decisions. She seemed to think your business success was somehow tied to family stability. This was escalating beyond personal manipulation into potential threats to my professional life. I thanked Rachel and immediately called Janet. They're not just going to accept losing their financial support, I told her. They're looking for ways to pressure me through my business. Then it's time to get serious about documentation and legal protection. I know someone who specializes in family financial abuse cases. You need professional help. I thought I could handle this on my own. Honey, you've done amazing work standing up for yourself. But when people start making lawyer calls and asking about business structures, you need backup. These people have been planning to exploit you for a long time. You need people who understand how to protect you from escalation. As I went to sleep that night, I realized my family's betrayal had led me to something unexpected. A network of people who understood my situation and genuinely wanted to help me protect myself. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone in dealing with family drama. But I also knew my newfound support system was about to be tested. Based on Patricia's lawyer inquiries and the family's sudden interest in reconciliation, the real battle was just beginning. 3 days later, my carefully built support network crumbled in the most devastating way possible. I discovered that Sarah Kim, the property manager I'd trusted with my most vulnerable moments, had been feeding information directly to my family. The revelation came through an accidental group text. Sarah meant to send Patricia a private message, but accidentally included me in a thread that revealed weeks of coordination. Update. She's planning to involve a lawyer specializing in family financial abuse. The meeting is scheduled for Monday. Also confirmed she has detailed financial records going back 10 years and documented the email conversations. Suggest moving timeline forward. My hands shook as I read the thread history. Sarah had been reporting every detail of our conversations. My emotional state, my legal plans, even the names of other allies she'd helped me connect with. In exchange, my family had promised her future property management contracts when they got their hands on my planned investment properties. The betrayal cut deeper than my family's manipulation. Sarah had listened to me cry about feeling isolated and used, had validated my pain, had encouraged me to trust the legal process, all while secretly working against me. I immediately called Janet, but her response made my stomach drop. "Oh, honey, I was hoping you wouldn't find out this way. Sarah approached me yesterday asking if I thought you were stable enough to handle a legal battle. She seemed concerned about your mental state. You knew she was working with them. I suspected something when she started asking detailed questions about your business income and whether you had other family members who might intervene. But Sarah, there's something else you need to know." My world tilted again. What? David isn't who he says he is. His last name isn't Rodriguez. It's Patterson. Patricia Patterson's brother. The coffee shop meeting, the validation, the legal advice. All of it had been orchestrated. My stepmother had planted her own brother in my support network to gather intelligence and influence my decisions. "How long have you known?" I figured it out yesterday when Sarah started asking strange questions. I did some research and found David's real identity through property records. Sarah. "I'm so sorry. I brought you into this thinking I was helping, but they played me too." I hung up and sat in my empty house, feeling more isolated than ever. The people I'd trusted to help me navigate this nightmare had either betrayed me or been deceived themselves. My family wasn't just manipulative. They were strategic, organized, and far more calculating than I'd imagined. My phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen, but when I answered, it was Patricia's voice. "Hello, Serafina. I think it's time we had an honest conversation." "Where's Marcus?" "He's fine. He's here with your father and Elena. We're all together having a family meeting about this situation you've created." The phrasing was deliberate. Situation you've created, as if I was the problem rather than the victim of their systematic exploitation. "We know about your little spy network," Patricia continued. "Sarah and David have been keeping us informed about your emotional instability and your plans to involve lawyers in what should be a private family matter." "My emotional instability? Sarah, you've been behaving erratically, cutting off family financial support without warning, building alliances with strangers against your own family, threatening legal action over normal family dynamics. We're concerned about your mental health." I realized what they were doing. By framing my boundary setting as mental illness, they could justify overriding my decisions and potentially even challenge my legal autonomy. "Sarah documented your conversations about feeling paranoid and betrayed. David recorded you saying you wanted to destroy the family's financial stability. We have evidence of concerning behavior patterns." My throat went dry. The intimate conversations where I'd processed my hurt feelings had been twisted into evidence of mental instability. The moments when I'd expressed anger about their manipulation had been recorded and weaponized. "We've consulted with a lawyer about having someone declared financially incompetent due to emotional distress. Apparently, when someone starts making irrational financial decisions that harm multiple family members, concerned relatives can petition for intervention. You're threatening to have me declared incompetent. We're trying to help you, sweetheart. You're clearly not thinking rationally. Who cuts off their entire family over minor disagreements? Who turns strangers against their own relatives? These aren't the actions of someone in their right mind." Elena's voice chimed in from the background. "Tell her about the Christmas thing. How she's obsessing over something that was just supposed to be a small family gathering." "Elena raises a good point," Patricia continued. You've turned a simple preference for a quiet Christmas into an elaborate revenge fantasy. That's not normal behavior, Sarah. They were rewriting history in real time, transforming their calculated exclusion and manipulation into my overreaction and mental breakdown. Here's what we propose, Patricia said, her tone becoming businesslike. You reinstate the financial arrangements that were working for everyone, continue supporting the family as you always have, and we'll forget about your recent behavior. In exchange, you'll be welcomed back into the family, and we won't pursue any legal concerns about your mental state. And if I refuse, then we'll have to explore other options to protect both you and the family from the consequences of your instability. Sarah has documented concerning statements about self-harm and vengeful behavior. David witnessed you discussing ways to punish family members financially. We have enough evidence to raise serious questions about your decision-making capacity. I felt trapped in a nightmare. Every genuine emotion, every moment of vulnerability had been systematically documented and twisted into ammunition against me. The people I'd trusted had been building a case for my incompetence while pretending to support my healing. We need an answer by tonight, Patricia concluded. Reinstate the financial support and rejoin the family on appropriate terms, or face the consequences of forcing us to protect you from yourself. After she hung up, I sat in complete silence for an hour. They'd outmaneuvered me brilliantly. By infiltrating my support network, they'd not only gathered intelligence, but created documented evidence of my unstable emotional state. But as the initial shock faded, something else emerged clarity. Their willingness to threaten my legal autonomy revealed the true scope of their desperation. The financial support they dismissed as unimportant was actually essential to their entire lifestyle. More importantly, their elaborate scheme had a fatal flaw. Sarah and David had documented our conversations, but they'd also documented themselves conspiring to deceive me. Patricia's threatening phone call had revealed their manipulation tactics. Their own evidence would expose their coordinated fraud. I opened my laptop and started typing. If they wanted to play legal games, I'd show them what real documentation looked like. Every financial transaction, every manipulative conversation, every piece of evidence Sarah and David thought they were gathering for them would tell a very different story in the right hands. They'd made one crucial mistake. They assumed I'd crumble under pressure like I always had before. But this time, I wasn't the isolated, guilt-ridden family ATM they'd been exploiting for years. This time, I was angry informed, and absolutely done being their victim. I spent the entire night building an impenetrable documentation system. Every financial transaction, every manipulative text, every recorded conversation was meticulously organized and backed up across multiple secure platforms. By dawn, I had created a digital fortress of evidence that would expose their decade-long exploitation scheme. But I needed professional help, and fast. I contacted Rachel's referral, attorney Michelle Harper, who specialized in family financial abuse cases. Her initial consultation revealed just how sophisticated my family's manipulation had become. Serafina, what you're describing isn't just financial abuse. It's organized financial exploitation with psychological manipulation tactics. The fact that they infiltrated your support network and documented your emotional responses shows premeditation. Can they actually have me declared incompetent based on Sarah and David's recordings? They can try, but their own evidence works against them. Recording someone without consent varies by state, but more importantly, their recordings would have to prove you're genuinely unable to manage your affairs, not just angry about being exploited. Michelle reviewed my financial documentation with growing amazement. $400,000 over 10 years, with them escalating to larger schemes while simultaneously planning your exclusion. This is textbook financial abuse with conspiracy elements. What's my strongest defense? Their own communications. Patricia's email about manipulation tactics, the property investment scheme they were planning, David's false identity. It all demonstrates calculated fraud. But we need more current evidence of their coordination. That's when Michelle suggested something brilliant. What if we let them think their intimidation worked? Let them believe you're going to reinstate everything while we document their reaction. I called Patricia that evening, my voice carefully modulated to sound defeated and anxious. Patricia, I've been thinking about our conversation. Maybe you're right. Maybe I have been acting irrationally. Her tone immediately became condescending and victorious. Oh, sweetheart, we're just glad you're willing to listen to reason. This whole episode has been so concerning for everyone. I want to fix things, but I'm confused about what you need me to do exactly. Well, first, reinstate all the financial arrangements exactly as they were. Then we'll need you to commit to the family investment property we discussed. Patricia's been working with a realtor, and we found the perfect vacation rental opportunity. How much would I need to invest? Only about $200,000 for the down payment and initial renovations. Then probably another $3,000 monthly until the rental income stabilizes. It's really a fantastic opportunity for the whole family. I almost choked. They weren't just asking for their monthly support back. They wanted me to fund a massive new venture while having zero decision-making power. Patricia, can you send me the property details in writing? I want to review everything carefully to make sure I understand the investment. Of course, I'll email everything tonight. Oh, and Sarah, we're so proud of you for handling this maturely. This is the family-oriented thinking we've been hoping to see. The email arrived 2 hours later, and it was a gold mine of evidence. Patricia had outlined not just the vacation rental scheme, but a 5-year plan for multiple property investments, a family business venture, and even college funds for future grandchildren, all funded exclusively by me. The email also revealed something crucial. As we discussed with our legal consultant, once Sarah commits to the family investment plan, with signed contracts, she'll have obligations that can't be easily withdrawn from providing long-term financial stability for everyone. They were planning to legally trap me in binding financial commitments that would prevent me from ever cutting them off again. But the most damaging evidence came in a follow-up text from Elena to Marcus, which Elena accidentally sent to me. Mom says the property thing is locked up. Once Sarah signs those investment papers, we'll have her locked into funding everything for years. David says there are clauses about family member obligations that she won't understand until it's too late. I immediately forwarded everything to Michelle, who called me within an hour. Serafina, this is incredible evidence. They're essentially planning financial entrapment through fraudulent contracts. The fact that they mention clauses she won't understand suggests they're planning to include binding obligations without full disclosure. Is that legal? Absolutely not. This moves from family manipulation into criminal fraud territory. They're planning to use deceptive contracts to ensure permanent financial exploitation. Michelle had more good news. I've been investigating Sarah Kim and David Patterson. Sarah's been reporting your conversations to multiple families she's supposedly helping, collecting fees for family mediation services that are actually intelligence gathering. David has been using false identities to infiltrate support groups and report back to family members. They're running a coordinated operation. Can we stop them? Better than that, I've contacted the district attorney's office about a potential fraud ring. Sarah and David's activities appear to be part of a larger scheme targeting people trying to escape family financial abuse. The next day brought an unexpected ally who would change everything. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, no relation despite the name, was a forensic psychologist who specialized in family manipulation cases. Michelle had asked her to review the recordings Sarah and David had made. Serafina, I've listened to every recording they made of your conversations. Far from demonstrating mental instability, they actually show someone processing emotional abuse in entirely healthy ways. Your anger is proportionate to the exploitation you've experienced. So their evidence won't work against me. Their evidence proves the opposite of their claims. Moreover, I can demonstrate that their recording methods were specifically designed to provoke emotional responses they could later use against you. That's psychological abuse, not mental health evaluation. Dr. Walsh had reviewed similar cases where families attempted to have generous relatives declared incompetent to maintain financial control. The courts are becoming increasingly aware of these tactics. Your case is actually textbook family financial abuse with sophisticated manipulation elements. That evening, Marcus called with barely contained excitement. Sarah, Dad told me about the investment property thing. This is amazing. Finally, a way for the family to build real wealth together. I've been researching property management, and I think I could run the rental business. You want to manage rental properties. I've been watching YouTube videos about real estate investing. It's basically passive income once you set it up right. And since you're funding it, I could focus on the management side without worrying about startup costs. The audacity was breathtaking. My unemployed brother, who couldn't manage his own basic expenses, wanted to run a rental property business funded entirely by my investment. Marcus, don't you think you should get some actual work experience first? Sarah, this is work experience. Managing family investments is a real job. Plus, Patricia says there are tax advantages if I'm officially employed by the family business. Another layer of their scheme revealed itself. They planned to put Marcus on my payroll as a property manager for investments I'd fund, giving him both employment income and management fees from my money. I realized their plan was more comprehensive than I'd imagined. They weren't just planning to trap me financially. They were creating an entire family business structure where I'd fund everything while they all drew salaries for managing my investments. But they'd made a critical error. Every conversation, every email, every excited phone call was creating more evidence of their coordinated fraud. Tomorrow, Michelle and I would spring our own trap. December 23rd arrived with perfect timing. My family expected me to sign their investment contracts during a celebratory dinner where I'd officially rejoin the family. Instead, they got federal investigators at their door. The FBI's white-collar crime unit had taken interest in Sarah and David's operation after Michelle presented evidence of their systematic fraud targeting multiple families. When agents discovered the scope of my family's coordinated exploitation, including planned contract fraud and identity theft, it became a federal case. I watched from my living room security camera as agents served warrants at Dad's house. Patricia answered the door in her expensive robe, the one she'd bought with my money while planning to trap me in fraudulent contracts. Marcus's apartment was raided simultaneously. The unemployment fraud combined with his planned employment in their fake family business added multiple felony charges. Elena's credit card schemes using my information provided additional evidence of identity theft. But the most satisfying moment came when Sarah Kim was arrested at her office. Security cameras captured her destroying files about other families she'd been manipulating, providing evidence of obstruction of justice on top of fraud charges. My phone rang constantly as news spread, but I only answered one call. From Janet. "Sarah, honey, I just saw the news. I can't believe how deep this went. Janet, you helped me more than you know. Without your validation that first day, I might have talked myself out of taking action. Are you doing okay?" This must be overwhelming. I looked around my peaceful house. Truly peaceful for the first time in years, with no pending financial obligations to people who despised me. "Janet, I feel free. For the first time in a decade, I don't have to worry about anyone else's financial emergencies or emotional manipulation." The legal proceedings moved quickly. Patricia accepted a plea deal that included full restitution and a permanent restraining order against contacting me. Marcus faced serious jail time for the unemployment fraud, but his sentence was reduced when he provided testimony about the family's manipulation tactics. Elena's consequences were swift and fitting. With her credit cards in default and no family funding, she had to move back in with Mom, who was also struggling financially without my support. Watching them both learn to live on their actual incomes was justice in its purest form. David Patterson received the harshest sentence for running the infiltration scheme across multiple states. Sarah Kim lost her property management license and faced civil suits from other victims she'd manipulated. But the real victory wasn't their punishment. It was my freedom. Dr. Walsh helped me process the psychological impact of systematic manipulation. "Serafina, you've survived a decade of coordinated emotional and financial abuse. The fact that you recognized it, documented it, and took action shows remarkable strength." Some days I feel guilty about the consequences they're facing. That guilt is programmed. They spent years training you to prioritize their comfort over your well-being. Healing means learning that protecting yourself isn't cruel. It's necessary. Michelle helped me recover assets and establish permanent legal protections. You'll never have to worry about being financially manipulated again. The restraining orders and legal documentation create permanent barriers. 6 months later, I celebrated my first truly peaceful Christmas. Not alone as I had expected, but surrounded by chosen family. Janet and her daughter Dr. Walsh, and her partner Michelle and her kids. People who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. Rachel called from across the country. "Sarah, I have to ask, do you ever regret taking action?" I thought about the question while looking at my holiday table filled with people who genuinely cared about my well-being. "Rachel, I regret wasting 10 years funding people who saw me as an ATM. I regret believing that love should hurt and that family loyalty meant accepting abuse. But taking action, never." Dad's been calling family members trying to get support for bringing the family back together. How's that working for him? Everyone's seen the news stories. Most people are horrified by what they did to you. Uncle Jim said he always wondered how they afforded their lifestyle. The ripple effects continued for months. Other family members who'd been guilt-tripped into smaller loans and favors began setting their own boundaries. My cousin Terry stopped funding his daughter's shopping addiction. Aunt Lisa quit co-signing for her son's business ventures. My story had given them permission to protect themselves. A year later, I launched a consulting firm specializing in helping people navigate family financial abuse. Michelle joined as legal counsel. Dr. Walsh provided psychological expertise, and even Janet contributed property management insights for clients dealing with housing manipulation. Our first client was a woman whose mother-in-law had systematically drained her inheritance while claiming it was for family investments. Sound familiar? Serafina. She told me during our initial meeting, "I saw your story online and realized I wasn't crazy. My husband's family has been gaslighting me about money for 5 years." "You're not crazy," I assured her. "And you're not alone. We've helped dozens of people recognize and escape family financial abuse. Each success feels like retroactive justice for my own experience. Today, as I prepare for my second free Christmas, I reflect on the lesson my family accidentally taught me. Real family doesn't require financial transactions to prove love. Real family celebrates your boundaries rather than punishing them. My chosen family now includes people from across the country who've escaped similar situations. We've created a network of support, validation, and genuine care. Everything my biological family claimed to provide but never actually delivered. Sometimes people ask if I miss them. I miss the illusion of family I thought we had, but I don't miss the anxiety, the manipulation, the constant financial pressure, or the feeling that my value was measured in dollars transferred. I've learned that loneliness feels different when it's chosen rather than imposed. Being alone by choice feels peaceful. Being alone because you refuse to accept abuse feels empowering. The final piece of justice came unexpectedly last month. Marcus, now working his first legitimate job in years, sent a letter through Michelle's office. "Sarah, I know I can't undo the damage, but I want you to know I finally understand what we did to you. Learning to budget on my actual income has been humbling. I'm sorry for taking advantage of your generosity and for participating in schemes to trap you further. You deserved better from all of us." I haven't responded yet, and I might never respond. Forgiveness is for my benefit, not his, and I'm still deciding what that looks like. What I know for certain is this: cutting off my family's financial support wasn't revenge. It was self-preservation. Their consequences weren't my cruelty. They were natural results of their choices. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself? What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your stories help others feel less alone. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and justice-served moments. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's survival. Thank you for joining me on this journey from exploitation to empowerment. Remember, family should lift you up, not drain you dry. Until next time, protect your peace and choose your family wisely.